For the first episode of the Small Town Western New York Companion podcast this season, I thought it was appropriate to have a guest on that to me really typifies the small town Western New York life. Someone who has found a true place and purpose, is enjoying their best life, and doing something that they love to boot. And Paul from Davies Hillside Farm in Springville is just that person. He only began Davies Hillside Farm after he'd already had a successful first career running a roofing company. Following his passion and his love for the family farm and raising livestock in the way it's been raised for centuries, using no hormones, no antibiotics, and in the most natural way he can.
We talk about how we grow our own animals under the conditions that we grow them in, where they're antibiotic free and they're all natural and they're able to wander the pastures and enjoy the sunlight. And we find that that's really important to people. And to me, that's where I take the greatest amount of pride, because not only do we produce the animal that the person is getting, but we also get to cut it up and make it edible for them, so that they can put it on their dinner plate.
Sure. I mean, it's literally farm to table.
It's literally farm to table. It does not get any more farm to table than it does through us.
No. And what was like the inspiration for this, like when this started? Because you were telling me when I met you that you were a roofer for your entire first career, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I ran a heating and roofing company, and I retired from that, and it was a big deal. It was a big change for us financially and even emotionally, because it really bothered my wife. But then now that we have this farm, everybody seems to really be enjoying it more. Now, the way the farm started out is our kids had animals in 4-H.
Right.
And so we would take them down to the fair and show them. And then when the fair is over, the animals are sold to individuals who bid on them, like through the 4-H county animal auction.
Okay.
So, but we always had extras, because animals grow better in pairs or in groups.
Sure.
So we had friends and neighbors that were always interested in purchasing these. Well, it got to be where, we weren't growing 3 anymore. We were growing 6. And then we weren't growing 6 anymore. We were growing 10.
Right.
And it was just more of a natural progression for me to go from growing those few to be able to produce for everybody. And that's why we really decided to get into it heavily and open the store and produce on more of a commercial level.
Sure. And then you had said that, so on top of that, so you had these small, I don't even know if they're called herds, you just had pairs of animals, and before you know it, they started breeding, and now you've got like these mini herds, so to speak, right, on your farm.
Yeah, like we literally started with 4 sheep, and now we have well in excess of 100.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and, don't tell this to any of the cattle farmers, but sheep are my favorite animal.
Well, what do you like about them, just off the cuff? Like,
I just like their personalities, and I like dealing with them, and I like the care of them. And
so you guys shear?
Let's be honest, when they're hungry, they can't knock me over. I'm still big enough to.
Well, you guys shear them too, right? So for the wool, correct? I mean, that's part of raising sheep, yes?
That is part of raising sheep, and we do shear them every year, every spring. Ours were done last month. The big thing is we don't shear ourselves. We tried doing that the first couple of years, and it took us like 2 hours to shear a sheep.
Oh, my God. Well, if you've never done it before, too, that's a high-skilled, right, profession.
It is highly skilled.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you got to know what you're doing. So then we started
calling in other shearers, and they came in, and they would do one in 30 seconds.
Oh, my gosh. So they would just flip them, shear them, flip them, shear them, flip them, shear them, and set them on their way, right? That type of thing.
Yeah, and actually the sheep were way more comfortable with that because they weren't being held down as long. They weren't uncomfortable.
Sure.
The shearers are gentle with them. They know how to handle them perfectly.
Right.
And it went so much smoother that
cool.
way.
But that's another thing. So you sell the wool, correct, after that?
Well, the wool we could sell it. There's a place in Ohio that we can take it to sell it. But it's really not worth anything. So what we tend to do with the wool, as silly as it sounds, is I use it for insulation.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
actually, that's an environmentally sound way to use it, actually.
Well, that's the reason why we really wanted to try and do it. So what we do is we wash the wool, and then we take it back to the barn, and we use it to fill in like what we call our lambing area. So we have insulated rooms within the barn where we can have babies in January and February and not have the babies get too cold.
Right.
And so we insulate the walls with the actual wool.
Oh, that's cool.
For the barn. So yeah, we try to reuse as much as we possibly can.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, that's a great idea. And so now, how long do you have a sheep before you now? Because those are basically getting slaughtered too, correct?
Yeah, we take the lambs when they're ready for slaughter weight. They're about 125 to 150 pounds.
So was that like 3 years, 2 years?
Nope, that's really only about 6 months if we feed them properly.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I don't know the timeline on that.
Yeah, it's probably more than 6 months. It's probably closer to 8 or 9.
Right.
And then because they're born early in the spring, and then we start actually processing later on, start from late summer, early fall.
Sure. That's really interesting, actually. So you have sheep, you have cattle, and you have chickens, just for the sake of it, or no?
We have chickens just for the sake of it. Yes, but one of the things about chickens is that people don't even think about is we don't keep them because of the eggs. The eggs are wonderful,
right?
But they're free range. These chickens go all over the barn, so it saves us on having to actually have insect control.
Oh, they're a cleanup crew.
Because
right.
They're a cleanup crew, right? So they keep the flies down. They keep the any of the bugs, really, the mosquitoes and stuff in the barn. They keep the animals as insect free as possible. You'll occasionally see a chicken or two chickens riding on top of one of the animals, picking the flies off as they land or wherever they're at.
Sure. Did you ever see? There's a great Hulu Netflix doc about this organic farm. There was a specialist whose whole thing was the cyclical circle of life type of thing, where every animal plays its form and function within the context of the other plants and animals on a piece of property. And his whole thing was completely holistic. And these two people who had no farming experience whatsoever hired him to consult, and they built. I wish if I would have known, I would have gotten the proper title for this. But you'd love it, because that's exactly what the whole premise is behind their farming, and they're trying to get more people involved in that type of headspace where, like, look, we don't need the pesticides, we don't need the chemicals. The earth and the animals will actually counterbalance and provide everything that you need if you just get the right systems in place for them.
That sounds very interesting. I think I would love to watch the show.
I'll send you the link. Honestly, it's a tearjerker too at the end, man. It's a really great story. It's beautiful, and I think for centuries I'm sure that's how we did it, right? I mean, it's got
to be, right? Because we didn't have all these chemicals years ago.
Exactly. So,
and even though it may take a little while when you first get set up, once you know what you're doing and you get things going in the right direction, it works really well.
Yeah, it's almost like a self-enclosed system. See, and you'll really appreciate that doc, because that's exactly what they experienced like the first couple of years, where like they were losing it, because it was just every day was something else, and there was these huge, massive obstacles to overcome. And once they got over them and systems got in place, things just self-rectified.
Right, and there's it sounds silly, but there's a little bit of money to be made too, because all right, say I have a chicken that does lay eggs and that chicken eats those flies, I do get a little bit of money out of that egg.
Sure.
Whereas if I go to the store and buy a can of insecticide, I spray it on, that money's never recovered.
Yep. Yeah, that's totally true. It's funny. Now, so did you guys, we're ping-ponging here, but you guys had this farm? Was this a family farm, or did you purchase this farm during the course of your roofing career?
Well, we purchased this while I was still roofing.
Okay, so was that the long-term idea, that you were going to retire from roofing and then start a whole second life on the farm?
That was exactly the idea.
Yeah.
I wanted to get away from. We had a large company, so even though you say I was doing roofing, I was not the guy out on the job.
Gotcha.
I mean, I figured things. I dealt with salesmen. I sat at a desk, 10 to 14 hours a day.
Gotcha. So you were running the show.
Right. So. Yes, my retirement was to be outside and to be with the animals and to be able to keep my hands in the dirt
Sure.
and really enjoy
Were
it.
you raised on a farm? Is that why? Or did you just have like this Walter Mitty where you're like, man, I'm so tired of being stuck inside all day and doing, I really need to just get out and just enjoy like, nature and animals and
Yeah, I always enjoyed being outside with the animals. And even when I was young, when I was 7 or 8 years old, my parents allowed me to have 4 or 5 chickens.
oh, that's great.
And
So you,
we didn't have a family farm.
right.
So, like, as much as my mother despised having these chickens in her flower garden, she loved me enough to let me keep them.
That's
So,
cool. Yeah. And so that kind
yeah.
of lit the fire then. So years later, you're like, man, I really want to get back to that. Or, uh,
That is what lit the fire. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed caring for them. I enjoyed watching them grow.
mhm.
I enjoyed breeding this breed with that breed to see if you got one that grew faster or had darker colored eggs. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
all of
that's a whole,
that.
I was talking to somebody at the fair one year about this. I didn't realize that was such a subculture. Was like,
It is. It's a big thing. Yeah, absolutely. We all want to develop this perfect breed of animal. Excuse me, whether it be sheep or goat or cattle. We all want this perfect breed that grows super fast with very low input.
sure.
And that's what we all strive for.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, honestly, that's when I met you. I was like, man, that's such an inspiration because I see that a lot in my business where I'll meet people and they've had one career, but there's always that other thing they want to do. And you see that their initial career kind of serviced the second life that they've had. You know what I mean? It enabled that for them. Uh,
It did. I'd have never been able to do this without the money and resources that I was able to get through my other
sure,
company.
sure. That's awesome.
And it's fantastic. I mean, it's great. This is what I wanted to do with my whole life. This is not a sad part. This is not the end of things. This to me is
It's a
more
new beginning.
exciting
Yeah.
and new.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I think that's the thing too. With when I'm going through towns and I'm trying to find businesses, I think it's really important too to illustrate that for people because people think that a lot of times they get themselves pigeonholed in life and they're cornered, so to speak. You know what I mean? And they just feel like
I do.
there was this thing that I really wanted to do, but man, this is like a one-time deal, right? So why not? Why not go do that
Exactly.
thing?
Why not do it?
It's just like, especially if you've towed the line, you've had children, you've been a great husband, you've been a great father or a great mother. And, the point is like, take the chance because more than likely, you're going to succeed. I was at a client's the other day and she said, she used this phrase. She said, if it is by me, it will be meant, wait, what is it? If it is through, it is by me. I don't know. If it is meant to be, if it's by me or something, you know what I mean? Meaning that
Right.
I'm the only one that can say this is going to fail.
That's right. I mean, you have full control. I mean, you need your customers, but it's still up to you to bring those customers in. And then it really is up to you.
Yeah,
You decide what works and what doesn't work.
exactly. And that's the thing. I think we just get indoctrinated into a certain headspace and we don't realize that, hey, wait a second, I can do this and I can be in control of this and I can give this to the world. And I think that's what you're doing here. I mean, you're providing a product that is very difficult to get now. Honestly, like, thank God you're here, but you're far and few between. But there needs to be, this word has to get out, which is why when I found you, I was like, this, you have to be on the show because this type of meat, we don't come across really very often anymore, and that there's been studies done about raising animals in healthy, happy environments and how that trickles down into the quality of the product, right?
It's amazing to me when people come in and they say, "Oh, we've never been here before," and they buy something, and then they'll call me while they're eating dinner and say, "Where have you been my whole life? Why does this steak taste so much different than any other one I've ever had?"
Well, yeah,
And
yeah, right.
it's true.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you talk to older people, even grandparents and great grandparents, everybody says that. And there are some docs that you can find online about this, that the food tasted different, right?
Oh, absolutely did taste different. Yes.
You could really taste it. And I don't know if you've ever been to Europe. I was lucky enough to just have a month where I went over there. And the meat that I had in Germany, I couldn't even tell you, like even just something as simple as a breakfast ham, right? I was staying at this like youth hostel type of thing, and the woman would put
Mhm.
out a piece of cheese, a little baguette, and a piece of ham every day in front of everybody's door. and I'm not. It was the first time I've had like German meat, so to speak, and it was raised on her property, same way that you're doing it. It was raised on her property, slaughtered there. The animals were super happy, super healthy, no hormones, no antibiotics. I took one bite. Even the cheese was all. So it was all in this town. It's called Gommending, and it's outside of Stuttgart, and it's this beautiful old medieval town. It looks like like a hobbit could walk across the street.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we were staying in all these homes have these courtyards where they raise their animals, and there's a local butcher and that type of thing. And it was the best cheese and the best bread and the best meat I've ever had, and that stayed with me. And that was everywhere I went in Germany. It was like that. The quality of the products that I was getting in these smaller towns and these smaller facilities was out of this world. And yours tastes the same.
Well, that's the idea behind it. And if more people understood to purchase local and to go to that small guy that, Jesus, he's just got this little place and he works by himself, or, he works with his daughter, go to that place. That's going to be the best food you're going to get anywhere.
Yeah, period.
You might pay a couple cents more, but you're going to get quality product that person cared about. I mean, he cared to make that the way he did.
Yep. And that changes the dynamic of everything, literally.
It changes everything.
From the ground up. And so now you were so you're raising these animals in pairs, right? We'll jump back now. So you're raising these pairs, and then the pairs kept growing. And then at one point you guys were eating the animals, correct? You guys were raising your animals for food, correct? There was an element to that?
I mean, I honestly have to tell you, it's probably been close to 30 years since I've had a piece of meat from a grocery store.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, why would you, right?
Right. We have a lot of it.
It changes the nature, too, of you wanting to go out to eat, too, right? Because you're raising something that's far better than probably some of the best cuts you could get locally, unless they're raised in a similar fashion. So.
They really aren't. I mean, it's hard for restaurants to do that because it's a little bit more expensive. Sure. And, in this day and age, we all have to watch our bottom line. But, I say to my wife, and a lot of times, she doesn't agree with me, but I say I'd rather stay at home and eat because I think the food's better half the time.
Yeah, well, and listen, it's like that when I was raised in a restaurant, right? And so the food I was making was as good or better than most of the food I could get out.
Absolutely.
So what's the incentive? So you guys were raising these, and then you guys were slaughtering them and eating them, and then you were giving your overages to friends, correct? Is that how it grew? Like you had some extra meat, and then you just gave it to a friend, and then the friend told another friend, and then they would request. Is that, if I remember correctly, what you were telling me?
Well, we would have people come over, and they would want certain cuts of meat or certain products, and we would do that for them. But everything had to be done through a butcher shop. So a lot of times, I'd go to my butcher shop and say, listen, I want this cut of meat. And they'd say, well, good luck. We're not going to do that for you.
Right.
They're the big slaughterhouses. So they didn't have time to do that kind of thing. And even our animals have to go through a USDA slaughter process.
Okay.
So they all have to be legally inspected by the feds, completely gone over, tested. And then once everything's okay, they get shipped back to our place where they can be processed into steaks and roasts and things like that. And before, we were just having the processor do all of that.
Right.
And we weren't super happy with the way things got done. So how do you fix something that you don't like somebody else doing? You
do it yourself. That's a story of my life and yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of
what we did. We started doing it ourselves. And I learned, I worked in a butcher shop for free for a while, trying to learn as much as I can. But just like with any industry, most of the secrets are very guarded.
Sure.
So you didn't get to see a lot. So I learned most of, silly as it sounds, most of how I cut my animals, I learned on YouTube and, just going through the New York State Beef Producers Association.
Right.
And weekend tutorials and things like that. That's really where I learned how to cut any kind of meat.
Yeah, but YouTube's been like that too. A lot of in my industries, whether it's video or audio, there's a lot of closely guarded secrets, and for some reason, people are willing to share, and why not? And so,
why not take advantage of that?
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
Something that might take 15 years to learn, you could learn on YouTube in 5 minutes. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. And we cut a lot of really odd steaks because of what I watched on YouTube, and it's great because I'll have people come in and say, hey, I want, I want a Sierra steak, which is a almost unheard of steak that comes out of the chuck.
Okay.
But it's just like a flank steak.
Okay.
And you would never know the difference, put it side by side.
But was there a texture, flavor difference, maybe like a profile that's different?
There really isn't hardly any difference whatsoever.
Huh.
It's a very, very similar steak, but it's tough to get out.
I got
And
you.
it takes me, when I break down a chuck, it might take me 4, 5, 6 minutes to get that out of there. And most processors don't want to spend the time to do that.
I see. Well, yeah, but that's your strength too. That's awesome, right? Because this
That's right.
There's a legacy craftsman to this too, right? There's like a craftsmanship to butchering that
There's
you're not
a huge craftsmanship. There are guys out there that I would aspire to be, that are, just like in, any other industry, you've got, say football, you've got your professional football players.
Right.
I want to be that guy. I want to be as good as he is.
Are there competitions where you guys are like a logging competition, where you guys are like meat cutting competitions, that type of thing?
It may sound crazy, but there is.
See, well, you figure.
There's like the World's Butcher Championship. There's all kinds of stuff out there like that.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
It is pretty cool, yeah.
So that's it too. That's your skill set now, really, because now you have like an artisan nature to your meat. Really, it's a high end product, and you're getting it cut by like a craftsman, artisan butcher, and you're getting.
And we do a lot of knife work, so it's not a lot of machines and stuff on the equipment or on the animals. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's much better for the end product, correct? I mean, you're not
absolutely.
Because it's gentler, right, on the product. So
yeah, it doesn't tear the meat with the big saws and things like that. We do just nice. We use nice sharp knives every morning. I come in and sharpen all my knives and get them ready to go for the day.
Right. Oh, that's great. It's a great facility that you have there, honestly. And I know that you're not like on the main street, of course, but I think there's a real charm to it being where it is.
Yeah, my family's owned this particular piece of property where the shop is since the 1920s.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Right. So it was my great grandparents' property, and then it was my grandparents' property, and then my parents never lived here except when they were kids. And then, then it was a chance for me to be able to take the property, which I used for the roofing company as well, but then completely revamped into the butcher and to being able to store.
Sure, that's super fortuitous though for you. You know what I mean? To have that opportunity to, facilitated both businesses, and it
absolutely.
And it's really cool. I wouldn't even personally I like going there. I like that. It's just a little off Main Street, kind of tucked into the town, and it's a surprise when you go there. It's a really cool piece of property, and you have a perfect size shop. It's like everything that you would need, right there at your fingertips, and you're there, which is awesome. So if somebody wants to talk to you, you're right there. And how?
Well, that's my favorite thing about it is I love being able to talk to my customers, right. Even though we have a few girls or a few people that work for us. I love being able to talk to them. So somebody will come in and say, when my grandmother, she used to make this certain dish for me, and we used to get it done this way, and I can't find that meat anymore. And I always say to them, I'm like, next time I butcher a cow next week, I'll have that for you.
Wow. See, it's Sam the Butcher.
And people love that.
Right? You're like, and I think our generation too, I'm 53. So we're kind of like some of the last generations that grew up. I remember going to the butcher. You know what I mean? I remember talking to the butcher, and I remember the sawdust on the floor and the smell. And he would come out and talk to my parents. So it's just a different relationship. And I think that I think you were saying this last time you and I were talking at your shop, we're wanting to go back to that as a society,
I think we are. Yeah. Even yesterday, a fella came in, grabbed some steaks, and he's like, he's telling me all about his Mother's Day breakfast or Mother's Day brunch. And he comes in every week, and he fist bumped me, and I knew his name when he walked in. How many shops, you can't do that at a big grocery store.
No.
People
there's
know your name and
it's your food. It's the trust of Paul. I know Paul. Paul's making my meat,
Yep.
And I'm getting it from his own hand,
Yep. And that's important to me is I want to know who my customers are, and I want to know who my friends are, and I want to know everybody in there to know what their preferences are. Because if you come in and say you want a good steak, and I know what your preferences are, I can steer you in one direction, where if I know enough, you might want something leaner.
Right.
Where somebody else comes in, doesn't care how much fat's in it. I can steer them to a different kind of steak that they're going to appreciate more.
And that's such a huge deal. And see, the thing is, food products have been so commoditized that the personability and the it's been completely taken out of it. And for centuries, that's probably no. Even if you were a baker, that's what it was. You were in your town,
Absolutely, yes.
and you knew so and so like this product or that product, and maybe even made like something special for them and gave them a call, and said, "Hey, we have this pumpernickel that you love." It's just a different thing, and it makes people happy. And food is the most important thing we put into our bodies. It's the air, water, and the food, and it's been commoditized and destroyed as an industry. And there's resurgence that we're seeing with these these organic and antibiotic, non-hormonal foods. These are really important products that are coming into the fray here, and you're one of these like lights in this industry that is like, look, we can do this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
Right, and it's there. I mean, it's work. It's not like throw up a sign and start counting your money. It's a lot of work, but once you start building those relationships, they last for years.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful facility. And listen, that's why Daly sent me down there, because we were talking along these lines, and he's like, "You think what I do is awesome? You got to go see Paul." So, and I had no idea. I didn't know you were there, and because that was my first day in Springville there. So,
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that we're here because we're so unassuming. It's just a little shop like you said, it's just a little shop off a side street.
right. But you have a really large selection of products there too. I was, when I walked in, it was like a full meat department.
Yeah. I mean, we have pork, we have lamb, we have beef, we have chicken, we have duck, we have. If you're into some of the sampling, some of the more odd products, we have some different odd products that people can try.
That's cool.
We try to have everything. I mean, I even have fish. I joke all the time. People will come in and they'll say, I'm looking for lobster. And one of my jokes is, yeah, I've got some free range lobster that I just harvested last week.
I got a free range pond up there.
Right. But we do have them. Right. I purchased them in, but it's, if you want steak and lobster, bang, I can take care of you right away.
That's huge, right? And you're getting it from a reliable source too. That's the other thing. I think that
all wild caught, so it's not farmed, and it's and they're from sustainable companies. They cost a little bit more, but they're way better to work with.
And when you taste it, that's the deal. At the end of the day, when you sit down and you've prepared this product and it was made with love and it was made with care and it was made with great skill, that flavor profile is 100% different than anything you're going to get in a mass market grocery chain. There's just no
It
comparison.
Absolutely is. It's hands down. There's no comparison whatsoever.
So, so that's what it is. I mean, people seek you out for that. Right. I mean, that's the whole deal.
Their neighbor tells them, oh man, I just got this meat from Paul's place from the Davies Hillside Farm the other day, and it's absolutely amazing. And if you don't have that quality, people don't come back, because if you have the same quality they can get anyplace else, they're just going to get it anyplace else. And that's why it's so important to me to have the best of the best, the top stuff when people come in. If somebody comes back and says, boy, it was good, but my goodness, my alarms go off and I want to find out, all I care about is that but.
Yep.
And I want to figure out why that happened and how we can fix it.
Yeah. Well, listen, I grew up in a restaurant. It was the same thing. Like, it was like a big red light. If somebody ever called and there was a problem, I stopped. Everything stopped. And then you had to figure out what happened to cause that. And 99% of the time, that created an opportunity for growth and for improvement.
Yeah, and you build relationships.
Yeah, and people are taken back when you do that, because they're used to like an adversarial conversation, not like a welcoming, like, tell me about it. Can you bring it back in? Can we talk? Because
people are always surprised when I say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. We rarely hear about this, but tell me your story. And then, they walk out with either an equivalent piece of meat or even the same thing that I had a second shot at. no charge. Here, take it.
Exactly. You have
Because
to
I
take
want
care.
them to be happy.
Yeah, and that's it. And see, that's the thing, and that's why you have a successful business, and you're going to continue to be successful. My brother-in-law owns a big restaurant too, and it's the same thing for him. He said it doesn't matter how big we get, each customer is as important as, and they have to be, because that's you're only providing for your family because of this person,
That's right.
and you're giving, and it's the exchange, especially food. You know what I mean? Like, there's, even as we've become more commoditized and desensitized to food, it's still something that we all love and we all enjoy still, outside of the nutritional aspects that we get out of it. It's still something that we love to do as entities, and it's a really important part of our lives. So a great food experience, right, changes us
It
always.
does.
You talk about it. You'll talk about that one piece of steak you had in Montana for 30 years.
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely, you will. And that's what I hope is happening with the stuff that people get here. I hope they go home and talk about, like, oh my gosh, I bought a 3-inch thick tomahawk steak from Davies the other day, and it was the absolute best piece of meat I've ever had in my life.
yeah, yep. And listen, and people will drive endlessly for something like that too. And I love how you're running your business, because you have your website. You have Davies Hillside Farm.net or .com, and
Yep.
that you have that, and that's a component of your business. But it's really about you and the shop and the property and the animals. You know what I mean? The tactile, tangible thing that is so hard to find nowadays.
It's the whole circle of things.
Yeah.
It's not just one part of it.
Yeah, you're not Omaha Steaks.
I'm not Omaha Steaks. I'm not buying a steak from every rancher within 100 miles of a place. It's small. It's local. It's right here. We don't want to transfer more than 15-20 minutes to get our animals. So.
And it matters, and
it does.
At the end of the day, this is a very important business, and it's where we're going, whether we like it or not. Because I think what we're going to see, just from living my life, I think you're going to see this overly commoditized mass market food, and then you're going to see this artisan food, this local, beautiful, healthy food market. And you're seeing
and
that
I hope
now.
That's the direction that we go in.
Because you got to feed the world, right? So there's always
Yep.
a need for that overly commercialized, commoditized food product. And we don't have a choice with that now, with as many billions of people as there are on the planet. But there's a true need to go back to the local farmer, the local produce, the local livestock, and we're all going to benefit from that in the end.
That is it. We will all benefit from that, and awesome. It's so cool, the things you get to come up with. Like, I myself personally, our shop has over 25 different varieties of sausage.
Wow.
Both chicken, pork, beef, and all different were made right here in our place, that I've spent sometimes months and months trying to perfect a recipe.
How fun is that, though?
It's great when people come in and we have a product called Philly cheesesteak sausage, and it's one that I come up with, and I can't keep it in stock. I make close to 50 pounds a week, and it's gone as fast as I can make it.
What was the thing? What was the thing the guy was buying the other day when I was there? Was it blueberry or?
Oh yeah. We had the blueberry maple sausage. Yeah.
Yeah, like, how could you go wrong with that? Right? You know what I mean?
It's delicious.
It's like a pancake, and it's like that beautiful like slop you get at the end of when you're done with like a beautiful pancake breakfast, where you get a little bits of the sausage and a little bit of the maple, right? And this spoonful,
mix it
and you're
all up, and it's great.
Yeah,
yes.
You're like, man, this is good, but you put it in a sausage.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do. Like, I have a pizza sausage.
That's a great idea too.
It's everything from a pizza minus the crust. It's just delicious.
That's super fun too. And and those are the type of products too that are really going to differentiate. I mean, you're already so differentiated, but that's like a super specialized product too. So that's fun, man. Just to even come up with that stuff. That
is one of the most fun parts of the business. I have to honestly say that.
Do people request it, or do you just come up with them?
Most of the time, it's just me coming up with them. I'll think, like, we did a Reuben sausage during St. Patrick's Day, where it was a sausage that had Swiss cheese and corned beef and sauerkraut, and my corned beef seasoning was in it, and it tasted just like a Reuben.
How awesome is that? How cool. It's super fun and unique too. And that's the type of thing. So on top of just even having a great base cut of meat, you have all these specialty products as well.
Right.
you know?
We want specialty products because we want stuff that people want to try, and
Right.
they want, they want to hear their neighbors say, "Oh, I had his beef on weck sausage, so it was delicious." And I want them to come in and try my beef on weck sausage, and then maybe try some of the other products when they're there
That's
as
so
well.
cool.
So
What a great idea too. And you never know. Like one of those might be where there's going to be 50 cars outside of your door someday. Like,
yeah,
hey,
someday I hope that's the case.
because that guy was like raving about the blueberry sausage. So,
Yeah.
it's just got to be like, there's another aspect to your business there too. Now that came way later, like, right? You were just doing the base cuts and then one day you started playing around or?
Yeah, it's been probably within about the last year and a half that I've really expanded our sausage resume, I guess you want to call it.
That's fun though, man. Awesome. So, what else would you like people to know about your business that we haven't touched on? I mean, we talked about because there's no chemicals used in raising these animals. It's about as organic as you can get. They're
That's right.
locally grown. They're well cared for and well loved all the way, which is really important for a lot of people to know and to understand. So, what else would you?
Yeah, and most everything is processed right in our house. Everything is USDA inspected, so you don't have to worry about food safety.
Right.
The USDA comes in and inspects our facility. Ag and Markets from the state comes in and inspects our facility. Health Department inspects our facility. So, we really have a nice, sharp place.
Yep.
And we take pride. And that's, if you go to the supermarket and talk to your butcher, if you can manage to get a conversation
Right.
out of the guy, he just goes home at 4:00.
Yep.
We take a great deal of pride in the fact that I raised this animal, I processed this animal, I sold this animal, and I know you're going to be happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even hear this anymore, honestly. You don't. It's just a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. It's literally the farm to table that everybody talks about, but is rarely serviced.
That's right.
I mean,
Everyone wants to talk about farm to table, but true farm to table is very hard to find.
yeah. When I was out in California, it was so overused, and so like it just hurt the industry. You know what I mean? Because everybody was
Everybody
saying it.
likes to say it, because it's one of those in phrases that people like to use, but there is no closer to farm to table
No.
than actually purchasing from the farmer themselves.
Yeah, but again, this is all going back to this, and this is why I do Small Town Western New York. It's why I do small town shows. The America that's sold to the world isn't the cities; it's the towns. It's us. It's the people who live and work and die in small towns. It's that sense of community, and it's a sense.
Yeah, and I think you're providing a great service to a lot of these small towns to be able to show them, what is available out there, and you don't have to settle for the ordinary. There's extraordinary all around us, and you're just helping everybody find that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Holy cow. Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, there's extraordinary. Well, there is, and what happened is I was seeing that through my older show, and I was like, wait a second, like how come this isn't getting its due? Because you have to think about like with you, like I mean, your whole existence is built into this farm. It's built into these animals. It's built into providing this beautiful product for people, and this is your life. You've chosen this. You've chosen that I'm going to stay here. I'm going to run this farm, and you extrapolate that tens of thousands of times over with people who've done that, and yet the media overlooks all of that.
They do overlook all that, and now I have my son to help me do it.
Right.
And he handles a lot of the stuff too. So, excuse me. Hopefully, someday down the road, this will be his, and he'll take the same pride and the same ideas into it as I did.
Sure. I'm sure he will, man. You are, Paul, honestly, you're awesome. And what you're doing there is amazing. And it's important. It's important for not only Springville, but it's important for everyone because health is everything. Now, food is turned into a nightmare for a lot of people to navigate. And you can meet the guy and shake his hand that's giving you this beautiful protein, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's a different relationship that a lot of people, I think, really need in their life, and they need in their body, and they need in their constitution on their daily basis, because you can't just keep eating these mass-produced, hormonally induced, antibiotic-laden meats. It's just not
No,
healthy for you.
why do you think there are kids that are 12 years old and 6'4"?
Right. Yeah. So we're roughly the same age. And I remember when we were growing up, you were hearing about that all the time. You were like, it's like
Yes.
we're all freaks now. Like, what happened? Because it's like accelerating our whole hormonal development, which is just wrong. Like, there's enough
Right.
wrong with the world. Why do that? And it's just like, what you're doing, that's, could it be more important? No, because what we put in our bodies is base importance to the entirety of everything we do in our lives. So, and
Absolutely.
and you're giving us that, and in the best way possible. When I walked in and you came out, I was like, this is great. You don't see this anymore. There's the guy, he's cutting the meat in the back, he's raised the meat. It was just a beautiful experience, and that's really what you're getting too with you when you come, to Davies Hillside Farm. You're getting that experience, right?
Yes.
It's not just like, oh, honey, I'm going to go. You get this. That's what I love about this show that I'm producing, because I love doing that. I love driving. I love the drive there, and I love seeking out these businesses. It's fun, right? And then you
Sure.
get that experience. Like, it's worth the drive to come down to pick up a product from you, because there's this all beautiful peripheral overflow of Springville.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. We have a lot of people that'll come down from Niagara Falls or Grand Island or Tonawanda, and they make a day of it. They
Yeah.
come out. They might stop at my place. They might stop at Dilly Dally's. They might stop at some of the other shops in town.
Yep.
And it's an all day thing, and it's like a little vacation or a little trip. Plus, you get to get some shopping done and experience some new things.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, man.